Shout out to Monica D from all the way out in Australia for submitting this article entitled, "The Worst Double Standards I've Ever Experienced on a Date." The article is about a woman who went out on a date with a guy, slept with him, but then wondered why he didn't want to commit to her. So of course, she cried double standard and all the other typical useless nonsense that women like to cry when they're exposed as the banana gobblers they are. So let's get started here. It says, "My date with Pablo was fantastic. I met him through a friend of mine and he'd only been in Australia for 2 weeks when he asked me out. He really knew how to show a girl a good time. We went out for drinks, then dinner, and then a walk on the beach where he told me all about his family and his dreams for the future. I thought he was just divine and I loved his accent. It helped that he was also a gorgeous looking man." Now that last thing she said, he was also a gorgeous looking man, is the only thing she cared about. She didn't give a damn about his family and dreams for the future. How could she? She'd only knew him for a few hours. So now the question becomes, well, why would she act like she cared about something when she really did not? Well, this is simple. She put up the banana gobbler shield, and women do this all the time. They would have us believe that the reason they had a one-night stand with a random guy is because she, quote, loves his energy or his aura. Girls will never say, he was hot, I was horny, and that's why I slept with him a half an hour after I met him, because they know it would make them sound bad. So what they do is they point out a trait or a characteristic that has nothing to do with his sexual attractiveness in an attempt to make us think they did something immoral for reasons that are moral. This is why I always advise my guys to make sure you give a girl what's called plausible deniability when trying to get her back to your place. Because if you just walk up and say, hey, let's go back to my house and bang, she's going to be hesitant because she knows you're talking to her like she's a banana gobbler. Now, of course, you both know she is promiscuous, but in a woman's mind, if neither acknowledges the obvious, then it must not be true. So when you say, hey, I have an idea, let's go back to my place so I can show you my video about underwater basket weaving.
So, do you want to come up and see my underwater basket weaving video collection?
And she says, OMG, that's a great idea. I've always wanted to learn about that. Now, you both know you gonna wax that ass as soon as you toss your keys on the coffee table. But so long as you don't explicitly suggest it, she can tell her friends, well, 1 minute we were watching a fascinating video about weaving baskets underwater, and before I knew it, I woke up in his bed this morning. I guess it just happened. By going out of your way to make sure a girl doesn't feel like a banana gobbler, you have to give her permission to act like one without actually calling herself one. Anyway, the woman in the article knew she wanted to sleep with Pablo from the moment she laid eyes on him, and it had nothing to do with his family or dreams. This is typical snowflaking. He couldn't stop kissing me. Literally, from the moment we left the restaurant, he was all over me. Not in a sleazy way, because I was so attracted to him, I didn't mind. But he'd be kissing my face, my arms, my hands, and my neck. He was just an incredibly sensual man, and the whole night felt like this amazing seduction. It's usually my policy to never go home with a man until I'd had at least 2 or 3 dates, especially a man like Pablo, who wasn't like anybody I'd ever dated before. Oh my God, more snowflaking. Now, before I talk about why what she just said is absolute BS, let me quickly remind you, like, comment, and share the video. I would also like to inform you that the waiting list for Relationship Foundation Fundamentals is filling up very quickly. Part of the reason is the newly announced bonuses, which are both the audio and video versions of my 25-hour game and seduction course, How to Master the Game. This course is jam-packed with rock-solid intel on how to become better with women on a casual basis. I teach you about everything from destroying your approach anxiety, avoiding first date mistakes, to advanced level strip club game, and so much more. Gentlemen, this is a $350 value absolutely free when you enroll in Relationship Foundation Fundamentals on September 1st. And don't forget about the audiobook and ebook versions of my signature publication, The 49 Laws of Sharpe, and the week of Zoom calls answering any and all questions pertaining to laying down a solid foundation for a relationship. There are still 4 more huge bonuses that I'll be announcing over the next few days, so stay tuned. In the meantime, get your ass over to tsracademy.com/howtorelationship and get on the waiting list, because once all the spots are filled, you will be locked out. Okay, let's get back to Miss I wait at least 2 or 3 dates before sleeping with a guy. It's her policy not to sleep with a man until she's had 2 or 3 dates. I'm calling BS. Now, I'm not going to sit here and act like I'm the only one who rolled my eyes when she talked about her, quote, policy, because anybody who watches me can spot that immediately. Now, there may be some women watching my show thinking, well, how do you know this isn't her policy? She could be telling the truth. No, she's not. And the reason we know she's not is because she felt the need to tell us. And the reason she told us is because she did the opposite of what she said she, quote, normally does. Girls do this all the time, guys. Girls will drop their panties 45 minutes after we meet them and then say, I don't normally do this, and expect us to believe it. Girls who sleep with guys on the first date do it all the time. That's why it's so easy for them to do it all the time. So here's lesson number 1. Never believe a woman who says she has a policy or a rule about anything. When they say this out loud, it means quite literally the opposite. If a girl has a quote-unquote rule about not sleeping with guys on the first date, it means she sleeps with guys on the first date. Any woman who says she has a quote policy against sleeping with married men does indeed sleep with married men. A Ukrainian girl I dated a while back told me she had rules against sleeping with guys on the first date. We were at her place, we're in bed fooling around, and the booty was a foregone conclusion. But every time I tried to slide her panties off, she'd say, no, please don't tempt me, Donovan. I don't want to break my rule. So I told her, rules were made to be broken. And my hand to the man, she said to me, you know, I never thought of it that way. The next morning, she said to me, it hurts to pee. And I said to her, that's what you get for breaking your rule. And she absolutely loved it. The point is that this chick is an easy first day lay, and we all know it. Let's continue. But after having maybe a few too many wines and then succumbing to his seductive ways, I agreed to go back to his apartment. He told me his flatmate was up the coast, so we had the whole place to ourselves. He poured me a glass of champagne, but before I could even take a sip, we were kissing. Then he took my hand and we went into his bedroom. The sex was out of this world amazing! He was so loving and attentive, and I just found him so attractive. What she did here was exactly what the 23-year-old I talked about back in episode 498, who cheated on her boyfriend with his best friend and ended up pregnant, which is putting herself in the passive role, which divorces her from any and all culpability. She had sex with the guy, but never once did she say, I got horny and I wanted to have sex, so we had sex. Nope. Instead, she blames it first on having too much to drink. Then she said she succumbed to his seductive ways, as if to imply that had it not been for her drinking too much and Pablo's seductive ways, she would have never slept with him, even though she went back to his place and were kissing before she could even take her first sip of the champagne he poured her. This is why we always laugh at women when they cry double standard. This is why we roll our eyes when they tell us their past banana gobblery doesn't matter. And it's the same reason they're always trying to cover it up. It's why they never admit to being a banana gobbler simply because they wanted to gobble bananas. Why they always divide their real notch count by 25. And why they're dishonest about their pasts. Because it matters. And they know it matters. Which is why they're always trying to cover their tracks. Women like to pretend it doesn't matter until it does matter. Which is exactly what happened to this chick, as we will see here when Pablo makes the right decision about her based on her actions and not her quote-unquote policy. After we made love, she continues, we had a shower together and then got back into bed. That's when he devastated me. He told me that he'd had a great night, but he wouldn't see me again after that night, and I couldn't believe his reason. He thought I'd given myself away too quickly and too easily, and he didn't like that about a woman. He wanted a date that he could respect, and he said he couldn't respect women who are, quote, too easy. I was horrified, she said. He made me feel worthless. Yes, I'd slept with him on our first date, and I'd only done that once before in my life. But what about the double standards? I was sleeping with him on the first date, but he was also sleeping with me on our first date. I tried to explain how unfair he was, but he didn't listen and didn't care. I got out of bed right away and got dressed. There was no way I was going to spend the rest of the night with him. I told him I thought that he should be ashamed of making me feel bad and that I wish I'd never slept with him or met him. He just looked at me with a smirk on his face and said, goodbye, have a nice life. I'd never been so humiliated. What women fail to realize is that they are a part of this, quote, double standard when it comes to intimacy. You see, they're not attracted to men who have very little or no experience with women, but are very attracted to men who have a lot of experience with women. This isn't a social construct. This is biology. Women don't want men that other women don't want. No matter how much women want this to be different, it's not. This is the way it is. And because of their biological directive to be with sexually pre-selected men, they indirectly help to create this, quote, unfair double standard between men and women when it comes to sexual partners. That said, we know that whatever sexual standard applies to women, the completely opposite applies to men. This is how it is across the board. Virginal women are extremely valuable. Virginal men are extremely not. Every man a woman sleeps with lowers her value, while every woman a man sleeps with increases his. Dominant men are sexually attractive. Dominant women are sexually gross. The list goes on and on, but you guys get the picture. But here's the thing. Women know this. They know these things, but then act all scandalized when a man actually holds her to her true biological standard. Which is why when men take advantage of a lack of sexual temperance from a woman, they do not respect it. Men of value, which Pablo absolutely is, do not commit to women who give it up on the first date. Now, we're certainly going to try to smash. We're men. It's what we do. And if we don't at least try, we lose the respect of women, because not trying to sleep with her on the first date is not seen as masculine these days. This woman learned the hard way that men who are worth a damn don't commit to women who give it up too soon. He said that himself. He said she gave herself away too quickly and easily, and that he didn't like that in a woman. Then women who hear about these stories ask, well, why did he sleep with her if he said he didn't like that in a woman? And the fact that they ask this question proves once again that women incorrectly think that a man's sexual desire is also a man's desire to commit. Of course Pablo liked that she was an easy lay. He likes that in women he uses for one-night stands, not in women he commits to. So here's lesson number 2, and this one's for the ladies. If you don't want a guy to put you in the friends with benefits category only, then don't sleep with him on the first date. If the guy you're on a date with is a guy you really like and could potentially see yourself having a relationship with, then understand that if you sleep with him, that is never going to happen. And if it does happen, if he does commit to you even though you slept with him on the first date, then he's not a man of value. Because men of value do not commit to women who are banana gobblers. Why? Because they don't have to. They're spoiled for choice. And he's going to choose women who choose not to give him the booty on the first date. That's all there is to it. Well, Donovan, what if he ghosts on me because I'm not sleeping with him? Then that means he wasn't looking for a relationship in the first place. It means he was just looking for easy sex. And if you have a problem with that, it means you weren't looking for anything serious either. You can't have it both ways, ladies. You can't sleep with a bunch of men in demand and act all butthurt that they don't respect you or make you their girlfriends. Everything has a cost. If you want commitment, refrain from sleeping with him as long as you can. If he is looking for a relationship, he'll stick around. If he's looking for easy sex, he'll bounce. So ladies, you can bitch and moan all you want about what's fair and what's not. Mother Nature doesn't give a damn about how you feel. Men are biologically hardwired to look upon promiscuity with disgust and act accordingly.